Well, if you want a quarterback, you're not staying at 9 because none of them will be there.
All
Bryce Young is going to
four
go.
are going to be gone before 9?
All 4 will be gone before 9. Anthony Richardson won't last past the Las Vegas Raiders, which would be just avoid that at all costs. Anthony Richardson that's a terrible idea. My last mock, I had Carolina trading up to 5 with Seattle to get C.J. Stroud.
Really? 5 to 6? Why is C.J. Stroud going to be there at 5?
Well, Will Levis is the one that's going to just blow out the combine because he's 6'4" and built like a Terminator and has the gigantic Jamarcus Russell arm, and we've seen that.
He's Josh
when
Allen.
They go to Indianapolis, people just get intoxicated by the big arm, and they overlook some of the deficiencies.
Right.
Now, Levis's deficiencies, I would argue, is because he played at Kentucky where he didn't have any talent around him. I like Levis. I like Bryce Young. Everybody talks about him being so small. It didn't seem to hurt Russell Wilson until he had his own office in Denver and became somebody that carries his dog around in his purse. But it worked for him for a while. So, I mean, if you want a quarterback, you're going to have to trade up. The good thing is that you've got a former friend in Seattle that probably would look to get out of 5.
All right. Well, I can't believe that all 4 quarterbacks are going to be gone. It says here, ESPN Draft Nerd. All right, Randy. If you're the Panthers, I asked Jeremy this question, Randy Slack from ESPN Wilmington. If you're the Panthers, are you staying at 9 and taking a quarterback? Jeremy says the quarterbacks will all be gone by 9. So do you have to trade up, or do you trade back, get more picks? Because none of these guys are sure things, I don't believe.
No, I don't think any of them are sure things. And in reality, we've seen quarterbacks on the move every offseason now. It seems like you can get a guy if you really want one. And to me personally, I wait. I take the best guy available. I take the guy we like the most. If that's a quarterback and he's there at 9, you take him. If it's not, keep building the team, and eventually a quarterback will come. Jalen Hurts is a 2nd-round pick. Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick. You don't have to take the 1st overall guy. And even if you do, Trevor Lawrence was number 1 overall. Everybody would have known he was the number 1 guy. The Jags had the number 1 pick next year. If you trade up and then you need that pick again, because you will need that pick the next year, it's gone now.
Well, the Panthers certainly do like to trade future assets for current assets. They have unfortunately done that too many times. Here's what I keep hearing. Jeremy, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, that the Panthers replenished so many assets with the Christian McCaffrey trade, but didn't they basically just get back to 0?
I mean, you could look at it that way between some of the moves they've made. I mean, now you have future capital. The other positive of that is that this won't be a year that it's that expensive to move up. I mean, look, this is not a good draft class. This is probably the worst class I've ever evaluated. It's deep, and so you can get guys at the top of the 2nd round that talent-wise are back into the 1st round guys. There's just not a lot of high end.
So then why are we trading up? What am I missing?
Well, the quarterbacks are the best players in the draft. I mean, on my board, I've got Bijan Robinson at 1. Will Anderson and Jalen Carter is 2A and 2B.
Right.
And then it's basically Bryce Young, Will Levis, C.J. Stroud. And I think depending on where – look, the reason I like Stroud so much to Carolina, I love this staff that Frank Reich brought in. Mm-hmm. I could argue it's the best staff in the NFL. And I don't necessarily put Frank Reich that high, but having Thomas Smith and Deuce Staley and Ajiro Avero and Dom Capers and Jim Caldwell, that's a great staff that can coach up a raw prospect. What always worries me is when you get the raw prospect that goes to Josh McDaniels or goes to Cliff Kingsbury, and they just expect you to be a ready-made product because they don't know how to develop you. I don't think it's going to be a problem in Carolina. This, to me, is the year you go get the guy. They're not going to be bad enough to get Caleb Williams or Drake May or Quinn Ewers next year. Those are 3 better prospects. I won't argue that. But you're not going to be bad enough to get them, and it would be extremely expensive to get up there and try to make a move next year.
Randy, can you and I talk about your plan, which would be my plan too, which would be to trade back since Jeremy says that this draft is not great. Because I don't think any of the quarterbacks are worth trading up for. 0 of them, in my opinion, are worth trading up for. the math tells us that these guys have maybe a 1 in 3 chance of being good NFL quarterbacks. So why not trade back, compile a bunch of assets, and then next year trade up to get either Caleb Williams or Drake May, since if you're from Charlotte, you're obviously going to be great for the Panthers. Would that be a better plan?
They do love people from Charlotte over there at the Carolina Panthers. They should change the name. Just make it the Charlotte Panthers, just instead of engulfing both states. No, but to your point, trading back sounds good. But again, if 4 quarterbacks are going to go before you and you're already a top 10 pick team, now you're picking a guy talent-wise who could be a top 3 guy. Now, the margins there aren't great, maybe, but it's still you're getting a guy who can be a clear impact player for your team.
Jeremy, what other positions are good in this draft? Again, we may have to agree to disagree. I think all 4 of those quarterbacks have major flaws. You say that Bryce Young is small, but Russell Wilson is small too. Bryce Young is not only small but slight. Russell Wilson was small but thick, and I think those two things
I feel like
are
Bryce
different.
Can add some weight. That's one of the That's one of the places that I'm different from a lot of people. I think when he gets to the NFL, they're going to
fatten him up.
That's what I wanted to say. It was I couldn't think of a better way to say it because he is slight. But that's really the only knock on him. You watch him and he gets through progressions. I love Bryce Young. I said too. If he was 2 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier, he would be Andrew Luck-esque.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is he's not. In terms of what you were saying about trading down, that's kind of like when I was in high school and I wanted to ask the prettiest girl to the prom. Just because I wanted to ask her to the prom did not mean she wanted to go with me. And you're going to struggle to find anybody that wants to trade up, because there's not generational talents. Now, to what positions are good, this is a fantastic cornerback class. Devin Witherspoon and a slew of other, Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. Mm-hmm. The offensive line is really good. If Carolina sticks at 9, I'm taking Peter Skoronski, and I don't think a second thing about it. If I can't get out, that's a fine plan B for me.
Peter Skoronski is a character actor, right? He was in a bunch of mob movies, I think.
He's he reminds me a little bit of Rashawn Slater, which is lazy because that's who he replaced. The left tackle for the Chargers.
Right.
I think he can be a Pro Bowl, All-Pro level guard, a really, really good left tackle, or an All-Pro level right tackle. And for Carolina, I'm not averse to just lathering up and doing it again with Sam Darnold. Just increase the line, maybe add a weapon, and there are worse scenarios in the worst division in the NFL by a mile.